Hello, this is Scientist Cuevas here to report on the unfortunate fire that happened at Fried Freddies over the weekend. I'm here to report to you of what I believe took place. More than likely it was a grease fire, which means it started from a liquid. If you did not know, grease is highly flammable, most liquids. Now, liquids of the three states of matter, it is in the middle as far as fluidity and movement. So that means that the molecules inside the liquid can move around a lot quicker than, say, a solid, but not as fast as a gas. But the fire that that did burn off the grease could have created some type of gas, and that could have even spread it even more. The main thing that we are looking into is as far as if the fire extinguisher was used or sprinklers did not work, and what type of fire extinguisher they did use. Now, kind of scientific background, the grease was intentionally the potential energy that comes from the chemical type, which means when it's activated, usually by some type of heat, it then becomes thermal energy as well. Our byproduct is thermal energy, which for what we could see is the fire or the heat that's coming off of this. As far as my investigation more into what we believe is going on is kind of some background. This has to apply to the second law of thermodynamics, which means that in the isolated system, which would be the kitchen itself, will only get hotter as the fire keeps going. Just because there could be, again, more grease, more things that are flammable, such as paper or maybe sugar. And we're also going to be looking at how clean the kitchen was. We're going to do some interviews, and maybe if we can get some footage before the fire took place, because if it was pretty greasy in there, more than likely that is the main reason as to why the fire did happen. Now, what I mentioned earlier was a type of fire extinguisher. If they only use a type A fire extinguisher, that does have oxygen in it, which means it could increase the fire, not actually put it out. And it can also spread the grease around too, which means that most of us, our first instinct is just use the fire extinguisher, the closest that is available. But if it's not the correct type for grease, then it can actually make it worse. So if they had a type B fire extinguisher, which again, we're going to look to see what they had, that uses carbon dioxide, which can actually take out the oxygen in the air or in the area where the fire was taking place. And fire does not happen if there's no oxygen. So it kind of sucks it all out, per se. And then what can the public do to make sure this doesn't happen ever again, either in your own home or at a restaurant? The number one thing is prevention. Again, I mentioned cleanliness. If you use any type of base cleaners, because grease is a little bit acidic, so if you use any typical at-home cleaning products that are more on the base side, that can help make it more neutralized and also get off of the grease off of whatever it needs to. If you did not know, you can actually use baking soda to put out a grease fire, since like I mentioned again, grease is more acidic and baking soda is considered more of like a base. But that only really helps if it's a small fire or the initial fire that does happen, because you would need a lot to put out like an entire restaurant type fire. Let's see here. Another one would be, again, your instincts as always is if there's a fire, use water to put it out, but actually water with grease is not the best option, since it can spread the grease all the way out to wherever the water is, because grease is less dense than water, so it spreads even more if it's in water. So it can make the fire last longer and also spread out way more. And like I mentioned earlier too, if there was sugar inside of the restaurant that was exposed to the flames, sugar and flour are highly flammable as well, since they are considered to be carbohydrates, which can have an explosive rate if it is mixed with oxygen and heat. So that could have also increased the fire. But otherwise, still in our investigation, and hopefully you can take some of the tips I had for you and make sure you have the appropriate fire extinguisher. Thank you for your time.